Unbeatable was one game I was highly anticipating the release of ever since I saw one of its trailers in one of those game shows. I think it was Summer Games Fest or something. I know for sure that I saw one of the trailers in Noodle's channel since the game and all that, but I was already aware of the game by that point. Okay, I get it, I can see it. I am a sucker for these games with good presentation. Especially if they have this nice 2D art style mixed in with 3D environments. I just think it looks nice, if Demon Turf is any signal for this preference I have. It's a narrative-focused rhythm game made with a lot of passion from people that do give a shit about what they're doing. But I think that the team might have gotten a little too ambitious and over their heads on this one. Because for a narrative-focused game, the narrative kind of blows and doesn't make a lick of sense, but we'll get there. I'll tell you when spoilers are inbound. Unbeatable is, first and foremost, a rhythm game. It plays very similarly to Muse Dash, both in the amount of keys you have to press, being 2, and with the presentation of notes coming from the top and bottom, representing which keys should be pressed. The difference here being that you don't dash, like in Muse Dash, so notes can come from either side of the screen, making reading a bit more difficult, which is used to increase overall chart difficulty. In this regard, Unbeatable is top of its class. The controls are tight, the songs are incredible, even if the set list is a bit small, and to get more songs you need to complete these objectives that the game makes no attempts on making clear what the hell you're supposed to even do, so I guess that you'll eventually unlock all of the songs, which, you know, honestly kinda cool. You don't really see unlocking stuff through gameplay that often anymore these days. I've seen some people complain about the charts not really matching the songs, but I can't really say that is something I have experienced. I don't know if that's just my overall unfamiliarity with rhythm games or if it's just people's own experiences. It should be noted that I played most songs at around level 10 to 13, since charts are different depending on what difficulty you pick. Speaking of course, that depending on your chosen difficulty, the game will adapt to be as inclusive as possible, which is really nice. Even if you have 2 left feet and absolutely no sense of rhythm, you can most likely play some of the easiest difficulties in this game and still have a good time with it. As you increase your skills and attempt the higher difficulties, you'll be hit with different challenges, such as hitting the release timing for long notes while you're busy trying to hit the notes coming from the other row with the proper timing, dodging spikes properly, not getting confused with double notes, and all sorts of other things. There are even notes that fade as they approach the hit zone, which, well, yeah, it's a rhythm game. Stick to the rhythm, boy. If you really just want to play the songs, there's an arcade mode that was made exclusively for that, which you won't know of its existence until you boot the game up again after the first time, since you're forced into the story when playing for the first time. There is a lot to love about the story. The way it's presented, how there is a lot of nice cinematography in it, even during gameplay, and some of the presented themes are good. And there are moments where the gameplay is used really well together with the story to weave themes and make the experience almost transcendental. Heck, I had moments like that in arcade mode by itself. I saw Beat and Quaver working together to whack the silence during the interlude in Dial Tone, and I could just feel the intent behind it all. It felt surreal to me. But for that to happen, we need to actually get to when that happens. And that's where most of the problems lie. On top of a lot of the story not making a lick of sense, and again, we got to that, it also is horribly paced. There is so much nothing in between moments of interest in the narrative that slowed everything down horribly. Take this for example. We just got to Quaver's house and she goes away to do something and we're left on our own. First, we're approached by Crest and introduced to him. This is fine, he turns out to be a relevant character in the narrative a little bit. Some conversations go and then we can explore the house. I'm not even sure if there is anything else to be done, but I talked to this other maid and she gives me a tour around the house and this whole thing takes over 7 minutes to go through. And it's just a bunch of nothing! Oh, like, oh look, this house was done by this architect dude or artist or whatever. And he's very flamboyant and very particular about some things. Okay, cool? This is never brought up ever again, you just wasted 7 minutes of my life. And this happens all throughout the story. Worst offender being the beginning of episode 3. We're starting the sewers and need to find a way out. The whole place is a maze, and I spend a lot of time just running around. Why is any of this necessary? Was the story really missing a pointless sewer maze that is over an hour longer than what it should be? Because pretty much nothing happens here other than some light character developments that, let's be honest, could have been done literally anywhere else and through any other way. And whenever those moments happen, there are non sequitur dialogue coupled with them where dialogues discuss pointless things like, what is the origin of the expression no fucking shit? Like, what? Look, I understand what the sewers are for in a narrative sense. It is kind of relevant for something that happens later, but not really that relevant when it all goes down. But the maze part and having me go back and do the same thing 3 times just because you wanted to do some funny jokes is not the way to go. Speaking of the jokes, the way this is all written, it feels so forced. One of the moments that really made me question what the fuck was being said out loud was this one.
This place smells like the inside of a used balloon.
Like, dude, what do you even mean with that? People don't talk like that. What does the inside of a used balloon even smell like? Dude, that's obvious, don't you know? Man, shut the fuck. Many of these moments feel like the writers wanted to make some kind of quippy comment or make the writing have a bit more flair. But you really need to know when to pick those fights, dude. I get the feeling of wanting to not get too stale or boring with the writing, but things like this are not the way to go. Your mileage may vary, of course. While speaking of the dialogue, the voice acting is fine. I've heard some people complain that it's amateurish or poorly delivered, but I really don't think so. Sure, I suppose the Beat's voice actress, which I assume is mainly a singer, could have put a bit more oomph into her lines, but I never really had the feeling that Beat was super into doing whatever she was doing anyway, so in the end, the voice acting really is fine. I just think it's a kind move from the developers to have this little grassroots unknown YouTuber, Julian Gaming, be part of the main cast. Very nice of them. And then there are the bugs. Many dialogue sentences play on top of one another. The game has a lot of frame stutters that like to happen during songs, making it a really poor experience whenever it happens, which was mainly exclusively to the story mode, so at least arcade mode is pretty much safe from that. And some scenes just straight cut from one point to the next, which I don't actually think are bugs, but feel like it nonetheless due to how sudden they are and how I need a moment to actually situate myself. Though, since that mainly happens in the second episode, I'll chuck that to just poor writing quality and sometimes scenes just hang for a long time. That may be because the game is waiting for the BGM to hit a certain point so it can seamlessly transition to something else, but I don't know, there's gotta be a better option, guys.
Fun like a desk toy is fun.
Well, we know people.
That is the job.
They're not really much about you.
Weird.
But is there anything to know?
So yeah, the game is very narrative focused, but sometimes it's like it forgets it's also a rhythm game and also missed a lot of one of its main themes of music amplifying feeling. It would be really good if you could just mix a song in whenever characters are having some heart-to-heart or during some of the key moments in the narrative, but it really seems like many opportunities are missed. At least in the first half or so of the game. Starting from episode 4 onwards is when things really start kicking into high gear and you actually get some nice weaving of both elements that show you that the story mode can be really good. But that was about 7 hours in for me? That is a lot to ask to wade through to get to the real strengths of the game. Kinda reminds me of Bravely Default in that regard. Terrible beginning and mid-section, but amazing ending. I must concede that every episode ends with a set piece, and those are by far the best parts of the game. The episode 2 one in particular, oh wow. It's so amazing. They even use one of the Rhythm Heaven-like minigames that were introduced earlier in the chapter, and I love it so much. However, when talking about the narrative, things really fall apart for me, and that's because it doesn't make sense, dude. And I just think that the writers got way over their heads on this one. The story was written by RJ Lake and Andrew Tsai, with Lake being primarily a music composer and Andrew Tsai primarily being a programmer and animator artist. In one of the update patches on Steam, they say the story is intentionally confusing, and I think you're rage baiting, because there are so many plot holes here that perhaps this is the true origin of the silence in the end. I cannot really find any other examples of pieces they have written for previously, so assuming this is their first go at writing a story, I can forgive a lot of its inconsistencies, but come on. The story touches on a lot of stuff, like the struggles of making it as an artist, having your art recognized by people, going through grief and keeping your loved ones closest to your heart, questioning if any of this is worth it in the end, and delivers some commentary on police brutality and fascism. Some of these are delivered well, and some of these are not. Like I said, the writing is not good. The game will beat you over the head with a lot of the commentary on police brutality without actually delivering on why this is happening in the first place. And when they attempt to explain to you the reason behind all this, they end up kind of justifying a lot of the actions harm, this military group that is the main antagonistic force on the story, do in the end. When the game tries to wax philosophical, it just falls flat because it questions some really basic things. Oh, why do we even make art? What do we get from this? As if humanity hasn't been making art for thousands of years just because it's one of the better ways for us to express ourselves. If you're gonna be making these kinds of second-grade philosophy questions, maybe also aim for the rest of the story to be experienced by infants. But when they get to flesh out Beat's backstory, her struggles with making as an artist, the problems with family and friends that she was having. Oh, well, I almost forgot I need to maintain this section spoiler-free, wow. But when we get to that tail end and start seeing the parallels between Beat and Quaver and the theming of moving on and letting go of the past without forgetting it happened, that's when they hit it out of the park. I must concede all of that. It really is really well done. So now, let me go a bit in depth for the story, and here's your spoiler warning, and I guess spoilers for Final Fantasy XIV and Walker 2, I guess, not really that much, but you know, it's here anyway, if you don't really want to get spoiled for that. Anyway, 3, 2, 1. The story focuses on Beat and Quaver. They meet in a field, Quaver notices Beat, sees that she has a guitar, and that prompts her to ask using it for a while. Beat asks no questions about it and just follows Quaver around to that stadium where One More Final had their last concert. This is important for Quaver, as Eve, OMF's vocalist, is her late mother. However, when Quaver starts playing the guitar, a policeman appears and puts them both at gunpoint. The reason for this is because music in this world is illegal, and it's illegal because one of the things that show up right after, which are named silence. They are aggressive entities that can cause real harm for people and things to the point that music bands are considered terrorist groups. This whole ordeal leads to Clef and Treble being arrested, and Quaver thinks that it's their responsibility to take them out of jail. They fail, of course. From this point on, it's something like an hour and a half to complete episode 2, where the only things that really happen of note is that we get to meet Penny, know what the silence dampeners are, and see that the main group is really against the police. After escaping prison, the four form a band, start practicing, and start playing in places to garner a counterculture. Beat wants to create an album, but their mixing sucks ass. So she resorts to Penny and her studio to work on that mixing, and their relationship grows closer. After Penny's studio burns down allegedly due to harm doing it, she wants to make them pay, so she has this ingenious idea to go make an attack onto Harm Tower. In the tower, we reach the final destination, which is this big room with some sort of wormhole to the past. And we find out that Penny was actually Sforzando all along, and she had gotten closer to Beat because she is this anomaly in the world, and explains to us that silence is nothing, but at the same time it's something, and Beat is 99% silence, and... Good God, even just making a summary of all this makes my head spin. All of this, just to point out, that Beat was run over by a truck and is either dead or in a coma. We can assume in a coma with the 99% silence thing, and this is basically just an isekai, which explains a lot of instances where Beat makes references to real-world things that absolutely no one has any knowledge of in this place. It takes almost the entire story run for us to actually have any clue on what the fuck is going on with Beat at all, and it's horribly explained by the end since they never really make it quite clear on what is Beat's condition, opting to explain instead through the convoluted nonsense they made up called silence. On one hand, I get it. If Beat just starts questioning basic things such as, where is she? How did she get there? Why is this place absolutely nothing unlike where she actually lives? Why the fuck do you want my guitar? We don't even know each other. Then you kind of just give away the plot twist. Not that it's really relevant to the plot at all. I mean, I don't know, dude. On the other hand, was it really necessary for all this to be an isekai? You could have just created a fictional world that is loosely based on reality in the first place and it would have been just fine. I mean, it doesn't really make sense. She just shows up near that tree and she doesn't even bother asking what happened or why she's there. It's like, what? Did you think everything was a dream or something and this is reality? She clearly knows things from Earth, you know, from the place where she lives, but this is not it. So, What's going on, man? Make sense, please. So one thing that came to mind while I was editing this video is that maybe Beat is like a physical representation, or she has been brought to this world because Quaver's feelings have been wanting something to get closer to her mother or something like that. So Beat being run over by a truck is very convenient for her to show up in this world with the guitar so Quaver can have her wish fulfilled or something like that. It could be that. It could be that. But then again, still, there's so many questions that I still need to be answered. As soon as you start asking questions, a lot of the plot starts falling apart, and it's really frustrating having so many of these questions simply go unanswered. Harm is an org that exists to control the usage of musical instruments in order to control silence, and silence is this force that works a lot like dynamism and Endwalker, where it's tied to people's emotions and they take the shape of whatever people desire the most related to how they currently feel. Silence is never shown to appear anywhere without music, other than Beat herself, I guess. So I assume that when they say that music amplifies this feeling that makes silence materialize, it probably amplifies by a lot. But an occurrence of silence happening without music is never displayed. Silence being displayed as anything other than these aggressive creatures is also something that is never displayed. So saying that they could be anything is completely bullshit. I say that mainly because no one really knew how silence worked until not too long before the game begins. It took 7 years for Sando and Harm to do proper research on silence to know how they work. It turns out that it's all tied to quantum mechanics mumbo-jumbo that not even the writers really know how to properly explain, other than make it sound similar to the double-slit experiments where silence will behave differently based on our perception of it. In a sense that, depending on what you know about silence, things are gonna interact with them differently. Like, oh, guns don't work against silence because they're not physical beings, they just don't interact with each other. Except if you give a gun to a cop and they don't know that the guns don't work against silence, they do work! Like, oh my god, oh god, god, fuck you, what? Like, whatever, dude. Let's toss all that aside for a moment. Harm has no fucking idea what silence really is or how harmful they can really be. So the lowly cops are told that they just gotta go after people that play music because music has to be illegalized due to the potential threat of so much silence being created that it could cause calamity level threats for the world. So while the writers and game tell you that all cops are bastards, there is actually some validity to their existence to begin with, and there are no better alternatives presented within the plot to combat against silence being a thing at all. I understand how people can be rebellious against the police and how the police can be overly brutal against people. God, there barely even is a reason given to why Eve died in the first place, other than some trigger-happy cop was at the wrong place at the wrong time. Or maybe this is an analogy saying that she wanted to kill herself. Maybe it is that. I don't know. Actually, fuck all that. Was silence even a thing then? Why is this event called the Zero Moment? What actually changed? Well, I know that Rest became Harm's leader somehow and was in charge of removing their lethality. So it could be her doing that this is called the Zero Moment to begin with. Anyway, I'm done asking questions, you get the point. Disregarding the absolute nonsense around silence, the last 2 chapters are the absolute pinnacle in this game for me. It's when the story actually locks down into its stronger themes. The pointless meandering is basically gone, and we actually have some proper character development going for everyone. All I have to say about it is that I was really moved by Beat's backstory. The whole struggle with making it as a musician, tossing everything aside to try and chase your dream, having to deal with the reality that you might not be cut for it, all while your only safety net is rotting away in a hospital room in their last moments against a fight against cancer. It's rough. It really is. Quaver and her have this one bond that connects them, and it makes for an incredibly sweet relationship. And while I can't say, like other people, that I have cried at the end, I can say that I loved the ending. But it was hard to actually just take many of it in because of the rampant plot holes, and I guess there's also this thing where Beat goes to each supporting character and has a heart-to-heart with their inner demons, and honestly, the only one that was actually good was Poco and Apocos. Sorry. In the end, Unbeatable has a lot of heart and a lot of soul. I think I was being a bit too harsh in the review I left for the game on Steam, and maybe even on some of the parts in this video, and I really feel sorry for that. I really like the game despite the narrative. But I still stand by a lot of what I said. If you want purely a rhythm game, I still think you should go for Muse Dash as the closest option, or wait for a sale, since they play very much alike. But in Muse Dash, you have a much bigger set list for around the same asking price. However, if you think the story might be just your style, then absolutely go ahead. Don't let me rain on your parade. See, that's a reference to one of the dialogues in the game. I think that if the developers release more songs for it and fix some of the bugs, then this can be a nice recommendation from me. Truly. Despite it all, I really enjoyed this game. Just keep it simple next time with the writing, guys. What are your thoughts on Unbeatable? I would love to read your comments and discuss anything about this game below. Remember to like and subscribe, and as always, thanks for watching. Take care. Oh yeah, and also enjoy the full combo that I did on this song. I was really proud of it. I hope you enjoy it as well. Oh my god, I'm so fucking. Oh my god, I'm so happy. Holy shit.